It's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I said I'd just pop over here on the side of the screen for a change from the start for two reasons. Because I've got my little man here beside me, so he's going to call me at some stage. So I can continue to keep on talking, even if I take myself off screen here if I need to tend to him. But also, I wanted to pop on to talk about Ferran Torres, somebody that in the heel of the hunt and everything that's gone on over the last week for myself, I haven't gotten a chance to speak about him. Somebody that's been linked a couple of times now, specifically, I think, since Matthew Alaman came into Aston, or has been rumored with joining Aston Villa Football Club. I think it's pretty much a done deal now since he moved. He flew to Birmingham yesterday, but was announced today, or it was rumored today that Aston Villa were hot in the heels of Ferran Torres coming from DBR8 and from Atsport as well. That they were pretty much there negotiating or close to negotiating a transfer of around 45 million euros, with the exact wording being that there are many options to come to an agreement. Now, I don't know what that means specifically when it is transfer or when it is translated from Spanish to English, but that to me sounds very, very promising. And look, we had Samuel Marsden on recently. We spoke about Ferran Torres and the potential of him joining Aston Villa. Would he be somebody that Barcelona might let go? And I think 45 million euros would be obviously an astronomical amount of money for Aston Villa to spend. It would show that we mean business. And also, I feel that, it would be something that Barcelona would say, okay, we recoup some of the money that we spent on him 18 months ago. An exciting signing, I think. An exciting signing, but I think it's fair to say, and it's fair to talk about the fact that he will be a potential signing or signing for his potential as well. And I'm going to talk a small bit more and give a bit more context as to what I mean by that. Obviously, he's a good player. We all know he is, but I get an awful feeling that, since he's moved back to the Catalonia, or since he's moved to Catalonia, to Barcelona, he's been kind of moved about. He's been moved left, right. He's never really played in that central striker role, bar a few games at the start of his tenure there. And I think really Ferran Torres has become a kind of somebody that's got kind of mixed up in the stream with regards to what Barcelona were doing. Xavier Hernandez coming in there trying to get that forward line to work. And Ferran Torres, we know is only a young player. He's only 23 years of age. But when he was 21 playing in the Premier League, he showed great strength. He showed great ability on the ball, a quickness of pace, an ability to be able to occupy the central defenders at such a young age, at 21 years of age, playing for Manchester City. And yes, Manchester City have a better caliber of player than Aston Villa do at this moment in time, and they did back then as well. But when we look at what happened when he went to Barcelona, I suppose really where he was beginning to excel for Manchester City, they didn't really capitalize on that, if that makes sense. And we're going to talk about it in a moment, because what I want to do is always I want to show up my stats sheet for Ferran Torres. And I'm going to talk about a couple of notes I have on him as well. Before we do that, I just want to say thank you to a couple of people. British Mick says, when he played for City, he made Wycombe Wanderers look like a league going side. It's good. Where else are we? I'm just going to scroll through a couple of these. Neil Taylor says, strap yourselves in, guys. Going to be plenty of content over the next few weeks and months. And you know what? I have any of you new people who watch this podcast. Number one, if you've only started watching it in the last 3 weeks, I usually have a nice background behind me. I usually nicely lit and everything, but I'm not in my podcasting studio, if you want to call it studio, at the moment. But if you're only new to the podcast and this is your first time listening to us, and it's going to be our first transfer window, I live for transfer windows. I love player scouting and stuff like that is something I love doing in my spare time, and just forming my own opinions. I wouldn't even call it scouting. I would say forming my own opinions on players is something I just love doing in my spare time. And God knows I'm going to have a lot of spare time and a lot of nights where I'm awake doing nothing and staring at the ceiling, waiting for this lad to go back to sleep. So I will be doing as much as I possibly can for watching players and trying to find out more about them. So uh, uh, Ronaldo RS says, seen some backlash to this transfer. Not sure where I stand. I haven't checked out this at all. I haven't checked out anything on Twitter with regards to Ferran Torres. I can understand some people who would look at it and go, meh, he had a pretty indifferent time at Barcelona. That's fine. As I say, that's a fair point that people will make. That's why I've brought it up here as well. I'm going to try and give the context as far as I can see it, as to why that potentially may have happened over the last 18 months. But for me, I think the juice would be worth the squeeze with somebody like Ferran Torres. He's only 23 years of age, and he was categorized 18 months ago as Spain's next big thing. So there's definitely something in there for him for sure. Where else are we as well? Oh, Martin McKeever, thank you so much. Congratulations to Neil. To what the baby said, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Martin. That's really, really, really generous of you. Ashville makes a great point here as well. Alaman in negotiating with Alaman and this one, I think there was probably more of a. I have a funny feeling that Aston Villa were negotiating with other. So Aston Villa are negotiating with Barcelona to try and get Alaman to B6 a bit quicker than was envisaged. And also I think that ties into the whole Barcelona making that strange statement that said Alaman is going to help them throughout the course of the whole transfer window. And I think that probably Aston Villa went to them and said, listen, look, is there any way we can get our man here ASAP? He's leaving your club. Any chance we can get him here ASAP? You guys are going to sign Deco, and he's going to be our new general manager, or whatever it is, or sporting director. So let's just stop beating about the bush here. And I think maybe they came along the lines of saying, okay, right, we are really interested in one of your players. Let's see if we can buy one of those players. You've just been hit with a 15 million euro tax bill in Spain as well. You're going to need to pay that off. You don't want the stuff like that hanging over you while you're coming into a season, an off season where you've just won the league, and you're going to try and retool to have a good crack off the Champions League again, and not like the one you had this season. So what can we do with Ferran Torres? Maybe that's what's happened here. So Villa are negotiating with Barcelona. I would say, from due to a conflict of interest here, and the man has taken himself away from it and said, I can't have anything to do here because of a conflict of interest now. But I would imagine the negotiations happened there and potentially could allow, if something goes smooth here, there could be a kind of a double kind of a handshake on it to say, okay, well, we're going to take Alaman as well here, and you're going to let him out of his contract on the 30th of June as per the agreement, and he doesn't have to honor the agreement with regards to the transfer window fee. Could be something like that. I don't know, but it would be interesting to sure. It would be interesting for sure. Ryan C says, to think if we go for Ferran Torres, then we won't go for Asensio, or do we dream of getting both? Interesting. I'm going to talk about it in a moment, Ryan. I'm going to talk about it in a moment, because where I see Ferran Torres and where I see Asensio are not exactly the same position. But I could be 100% wrong on that. I think that Ferran Torres sees him as a centre forward. I think Asensio would, while I mentioned in my Asensio podcast where he plays that second support striker, it would still mean that the two of them could play in the same team. Now, with Asensio being a free transfer, there's always something there for squad depth, but it would mean people would have to leave our squad, our team. There would have to be outgoings there. There would not be enough room for Coutinho, Buendia, and Asensio, Ferran Torres, and so on within the squad. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Oh God, my other child now is just coughing like a mad joke, but she's fine. She's fine. Yeah, so I'm just going to pop in here and excuse me, and start moving some slides here, and we'll talk a small bit about Ferran Torres. So let's take a look at Ferran Torres. I've got him here as a striker, central striker, and I'll put him up here again as well with regards to what he gives as that kind of that support striker, and with the Buendia as the Coutinho as the on Bailey's point of view. We can see here he's got a bit of a mixed bag from the point of view of from the point of view of an attacking side of things. Bear in mind these are over the last 365 days, and I'm going to bring a small bit of context to this in a moment with regards to just some things he did at Manchester City and some things I've seen him do for Barcelona, but he hasn't had anywhere near the scoring frequency and so on from the same amount of play. So since he's moved to Barcelona, his amount of shots has taken a bit of a dive, but he's still in there along the same lines as Ollie Watkins, takes the same amount of shots as Ollie Watkins and as Danny Ings did when Danny Ings was at the club as well, coming in there at 2.71 shots. He gets 35.8% of those on target. I would like that to be higher. I think a percentage on target would be higher percentage on target would be good. These statistics that he has here on the left hand side, the percentages that we have against them there, the 79%, the 48%, those line graphs, these are against attacking midfielders because that's really where he's played for Barcelona. So just bear that in mind as well. One of the biggest areas that he has is he's still very industrious as a forward player. At Manchester City, he really embraced Pep's way of working. He really embraced the English Premier League, in that you have to be industrious, you have to work back, you have to learn how to use your body to kind of manipulate play, especially if you're going to try and hold that ball up. And Ferran Torres, for a 21-year-old, was exceedingly good in that, specifically when he was coming off the bench. He had Gabriel Jesus to contend with. He had Sergio Aguero to contend with, and he was looked really adept at that for somebody who was so young at 21 years of age, doing that. And as I say, since he moved to Barcelona, he's been predominantly played on the wings. I think he has played through the centre, but hasn't been given the same opportunities, obviously, with the likes of Lewandowski there. And prior to that, Pierre Aubameyang was there, Memphis Depay was there, and they were played at times. And Torres has had opportunities to come off the bench. Why? I think it's really because Barcelona had to be in a win now mode, as in they had to get second in the league, they had to get into Champions League, they had to do all this. And Ferran Torres was coming to a big club with a lot of expectations and a massive transfer fee on his shoulders. Not the first time he's done that. Remember, 20 million took him from Valencia to Man City. So he has had a big price tag before. This is a big price tag coming to a club that had a small bit of turmoil around it and had a lot of influx of players as well. So from that point of view, from a contextual point of view, there is reasons as to why this guy didn't hit the same heights at Barcelona when he moved there. The shot creating actions piece here for me is huge, because even though he didn't get as many touches of the ball as a lot of other Barcelona players did, his shot creating actions were really strong from the point of view of what once again, the percentage piece here is for an attacking midfielder. When we look at where he lines up against with our strikers here, creating his own actions, creating shot creating actions specifically for other players and for himself, is quite good for him. And when I think about him playing in this team, I think he could play as that centre forward, as that second striker, because realistically speaking, we're looking to fill Buendia, the Buendia role. We're looking to fill that Bailey role that plays just off Ollie Watkins there. And Ferran Torres can certainly do that. He really does. He really can do that, should I say. And the reason I think he can do that, because when you look at him, and I've spent most of my time looking at him when he played at City, because I think that's how he's going to be utilised for Aston Villa, and it's going to be more through the centre. Because at Manchester City, I'm just going to open up some of my notes here. At Manchester City, he scored 16 goals and he had 4 assists, and he played 14 times as a right winger, 19 times as a centre forward, and 10 times as a left winger. So he played all the way across that kind of attacking landscape, but mostly 19 times, as I say, he played as a centre forward. And I mentioned there, he scored 16 goals and 4 assists, which was really good in the Premier League. And he only played 2,627 minutes, over the course of 18 months. So really productive time in the Premier League. Looked like he suited the league. Looked like the league suited him. Why is that important? Because you look at Leon Bailey, who comes into this league and you think has absolutely everything to take this league by storm. Has pace, can carry the ball, had a decent-ish scoring record at Leverkusen, but comes into this league, and I've said it before, I don't think this league suits Leon Bailey. I think we've seen it now. I don't think he suits the league. I don't think the league suits him. And it'll be an interesting to see what happens with him over the course of the summer, specifically over the course of the next 12 months. When people will be brought in to take his place or to give him competition for his place, because at the moment it's him and Buendia, and he's not really kind of lit the world on fire, save for 2 or 3 games this season. So if Ferran Torres comes in here, what I'm expecting from him as a striker is I'm expecting him to show that defensive grit, that high press, really good high presser under Pep Guardiola. He was actually fantastic at the high press under Pep Guardiola, and that's why he was brought on late in games. Teams were tired. He was brought on. He'd press like a maniac. He'd win the ball back. At times, then he'd win it back. He'd be fresh enough to get in behind the defender and score that goal. As I say, of those 16 goals that he scored for Manchester City. Another reason why I think that he's going to be valuable is because he's got superb interpretation of space. He's the way that he finds space is fantastic, specifically when he plays, excuse me, when he plays as centre forward, dropping deep. So if he played as up top in the top 2, he would allow him to drop deep, or even an Ollie Watkins to drop deep, keep defenders, centre halves guessing. And if we remember when we played Newcastle, and Ollie Watkins was unplayable in that game. Like, he was just absolutely fantastic. How was he fantastic? He was able to swap from centre half to centre half, drag them further forward, whether it be Botman or whether it be Schär. We had Trippier pin back with Moreno, but because he was able to pick his centre half and pull one of them forward at any given time, there was loads of space in behind that centre back, and he was able then to manipulate that space. If you've got 2 people who can do that, because Ferran Torres is really good in the air as well, comparatively speaking, I suppose. He's 6 foot, but he's pretty decent in the air. If you've got 2 people who can do that, who can come forward and then be able to exploit the space in behind, because Ollie Watkins, for all his failings maybe at first-time shooting and stuff like that, he's a really good space player. And Ferran Torres can do that as well. And I think that's something that that at Aston Villa he would be utilized or he would be asked to do. Also, another great thing that he's able to do is if he is that guy, if we say if Ollie Watkins does peel off and start to try and create chances, Ferran Torres is really good in the box at finding spaces. Like, he's got that kind of poacher's mentality in the box as well. His placement, his movement in there is really, really good as well. Loves getting in positions and that penalty area to be able to capitalize on cutbacks. And guess who we have that has a brilliant ability to make cutbacks, specifically from the byline? Another Spanish man within our team, in Alex Moreno. I can see an awful lot of reasons why Ferran Torres, he does naturally, and what Pep has really instilled in him at Man City, and why that would be really appealing to Unai Emery as well. There's another trait that I wanted to talk about as well. I spoke about that. He's back to goal. What's my note here? Yes, the willingness to make runs in behind defenders. He's 23 years of age. He's got a youthful exuberance with regards to how he plays as well. Obviously, he's better than youthful exuberance because he's got quite a decent Spain record. I think he's got 2 goals against Italy to his name, amongst others, and you know how difficult it is to score against Italy. But his ability to be able to run in behind the centre halves, to be able to run in and beat that offside trap as well, I think is really important. Obviously, we do counter attack, and I can expect us having a way faster build-up play in coming weeks and in coming months. Ferran Torres will be somebody that will be able to exploit that as well. Not only do I have one child who's crying, but I think I might have a second one. Yeah, she might be gone back to bed there. I do apologize. This is a tough gig tonight. Tough gig. I'm kind of half regretting starting this now. I am going to be honest with you, because I am going to need to cut the broadcast there, guys, and to cut this Ferran Torres piece. But essentially, I like him. I think if Aston Villa signing me offers an awful lot to Aston Villa, but I need to go and tend to one of my kids. I do apologize, everybody. See you later. We'll be back again tomorrow. All the best, and up the Villa.